Hi folks, with Tassus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a media stage managed piece of propaganda media that occurred in Australia recently. There was supposed to have been, or it's alleged there was some Nazis, supposedly Nazis. How they're identified, I don't know, but I'll come back to that in a minute. Nazis meeting at some sort of a gym to exercise and work out together, or something like that. And the gym wasn't very big, so I don't know how many people could fit in there. 20 maybe. I mean, that would be the tops. It was supposed to be like as if it was some massive mass meeting of Nazis. Hitler was personally attending, and there would have been more swastikas there than you could point a stick at. So it was like a wow factor Nazi meeting that also had the added benefit, and they throw the whole thing in there: Nazi, white supremacist, fascist, swastika, Hitler. It's all there. And this meeting was supposed to take place. Now, somehow nobody knows. I mean, these people were unseen. They were unidentified. Sort of, who were they? I mean, were they pictured sort of going in or out of the building, or how many were in there? I mean, do we know? Well, do any of these facts matter? The issue is, well, no, they don't matter, because we're spinning a narrative here. So let's say there was 20 people, assuming that's true. We don't know if it was or not. One person was claimed to be in there, and this person is supposed to be against teaching trans activism to young school children, with gay lesbian pornography to young school children. He's against that. And he's against unskilled mass migration. So I don't know. I mean, are any of those things really controversial? But apparently this qualifies him as being a living and breathing example of fascist, Nazi, white supremacist, of being Hitler. So that's hardly a sort of a Hitler. I mean, is that all you care? I mean, wow. I mean, that's Hitler. The biggest thing apparently is the opposing the trans stuff, which makes him a fascist Nazi. Now, somehow, these people going to the gym to work out and supposedly being Nazis, why you'd even care is quite beyond me. But this sort of grouping of LGBT activists, trans, and so on, were able to mobilize a mob of, it's claimed, 300 people. And they were bullhorns, the slogans, the picket waving, the signs, the whole thing, with their spokesperson being a Jewish lesbian journalist, by the way. I'm sure that was just coincidence. And they were saying, we're there to fight Nazis. We're there to fight fucking Hitler. Fucking fascists. Fascists are everywhere. They've taken over everything, but we're fighting back. We're fighting Hitler. And there was a very substantial police presence there. Now, somehow the police were in place before the mob turned up. So this sort of socialist, trans, LGBTQ mob turned up, and it all looked very stage managed. Now, just listening to the news article, they must have been short on news because it was the longest news segment that day. There was no other, no matter what it was, nothing was that long. And they're obviously under instructions to mention the word Nazi, white supremacist, and fascist as many times as they could. So you're looking at fascist and Nazi mentioned like every 16 seconds over a 7-minute news item. So they were certainly making sure that. So who were the bad guys? It was those fucking fascist, fucking Nazi, fucking Hitler in that fucking gym. That's what it was. And there were 100 million Hitlers in there. That's how dangerous it was. Everybody's shaken in fear. Oh, but so the whole thing was clearly stage managed and orchestrated and choreographed. to try and gin up the idea that there are Nazis and fascists everywhere. And again, it was the one side of the activists were allowed free rein. We're here to stop people because they hate anyone that's not white because they're fucking Nazis. And so it was a mixture of, if you oppose mass migration, if you're against the trans stuff, if you're against teaching gay lesbian pornography to young school children, then you are a Nazi, quite possibly Hitler. So they're there to sort of depict and present the Nazis as being that the Nazis exist first off, which that's a stretch, and that whatever they oppose, and if you oppose those things or question them, then you are a Nazi, again, quite possibly Hitler. So it goes to show the effort that the globalists go to and the NGO activists go to gin up this, that there are Nazis everywhere, Nazis in every closet, around every corner, under every bed, and so on, which is an absurdity and a blatant, brazen falsehood or series of falsehoods that's going on. And just because someone wants an emphasis on skilled migration doesn't make them a fucking Nazi. But if you were looking at independent journalism, you'd say, well, there's quite a lot of you here. How did you hear about this? Who's organised it? Where did the money come from? Those signs, who printed those? Who's paid for that bullhorn? I've noticed here that these people have been bussed in. Who paid for those buses? Where did that money come from? I've noticed that there's someone handing out food and drink, and that there's portable toilet facilities being provided. Who paid for all that? That should have been proper journalism. And then they could have said, well, these people may or may not be Nazis, but these other guys are no clean skins. They're a bunch of screaming activists, and they've ginned and set this whole thing up just for purely propaganda purposes. That would be proper reporting. But of course, they don't do that. We get the Nazis everywhere, and we have to fight the Nazis. And that's the crazy, insane narrative that we're fed by the mainstream media. You've been fantastic today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.